Welcome back to Mountain Views. We've been chock full already tonight, and I am excited to introduce a fellow who's here in Salt Lake, in the greater area, who's done a lot of fantastic work both in film, in literature, and beyond. Bryan Young is going to start joining us every couple of weeks, or as the schedule allows, to talk about events, talk about what's happening in film and other areas of the arts. Please welcome Bryan Young. How are you, man?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the show. So I'd like to take an opportunity, since you were here last time, not so long ago, talking about your writing career and your literature, to introduce you to viewers a little bit, since we're going to be having our fireside chats here on somewhat of a regular basis. So if you would, tell us a little bit about your background and kind of where you got your start in the arts in general and that sort of thing.
My background is I've got a terrible habit of biting off more than I can chew.
I see.
And then chewing it. I started in documentary film sort of almost by accident, filming and helping edit and producing a documentary in late 2004 called This Divided State, that was about Michael Moore's trip to Utah right before the 2004 election. And, I'd done some stuff before then that we don't need to talk about. But that was a really great documentary, and I got to travel the country with it to various film festivals and stuff. And then that got us into another documentary, and I produced one called Killer at Large, which is a political examination of the political effects of obesity and the food industry and all the different crazy stuff that goes on with that. And along the way, I'm a columnist for the Huffington Post. I've got a weekly column in Salt Lake City Weekly. I'm the editor-in-chief of a website called Big Shiny Robot, where we talk about comic books and science fiction all the time. And like I said, I've got my hands in way too many pies.
Well, I have to say, to start off with your laundry list of items that you've contributed to, been involved in, authored, that I'm a huge fan of This Divided State. I just think it's a very even and yet very insightful look at that crazy time when Michael Moore came into some might say the heart of the Western Bible Belt, as it were. And
he came to Utah County, and he came to Provo, and Utah County at the time, and I didn't know this till afterwards, was actually the most conservative county in the country. And they voted for George Bush in 2000, 9-1 across the board. And Michael Moore, who's this liberal firebrand, love him or hate him, he really ignited a conversation across the country. And when they announced Michael Moore was coming to then UVSC, now UVU, we knew we had to pull the cameras out and just go.
Well, I have to say that one of the things that I took away from viewing that film, in commenting on how even-handed your treatment of the subjects, of the people that were involved in that controversy, as it were, that it really was, even though there were a lot of loud voices and very large placards throughout the film, that there were it's really a beautiful example of democracy in action, that actually everybody did get to have their say. Was it Sean Hannity or one of the conservative guys came, and that really added to the dialogue as well. So nice treatment of that crazy event. And
we really tried to making that film was one of the hardest experiences of my life, being there shooting on campus and maintaining neutrality as an observer. I'm a very opinionated guy, and having to keep my mouth shut through all of that was probably some of the hardest work I've ever done. But we really went out of our way to make sure that everybody had their perspective represented in the film. And I've had so many people tell us, from both sides of the political spectrum, there's someone in there that spoke and said exactly what I wanted to say. Everybody, left and right, and the director, I produced it, and the director, to his credit, really went out of his way to make sure that happened.
And,
you know.
and it did follow through for sure. So I think even though we had talked a little bit about getting into Killer at Large and maybe taking a look at that clip, I think our time limitations tonight are going to be such that, well, since you're going to be back around, we'll get to that. But as just a little bit of a whetting the appetite for what's to come for our chats together, I wanted to throw out that I know you've talked about Occupy Wall Street and Occupy SLC in your Huffington Post column. But it seems as though we have our own Occupy movement now here in Park City. Get your take on the movement itself and a little bit of your thoughts.
You know, I went out that first day in the pouring rain and snow in Salt Lake when they started the march, and I think it's really admirable what they're doing more than anything. I'm not sure how much it's going to accomplish because I've been down to the camp repeatedly since they started, and it seems sort of they just don't have a unified message or even a unified spokesperson. But you know, they're angry about stuff that people should be angry about, and it's not a partisan anger. It's people, we've been, you know, screwed, and no one's been held accountable for it yet. And I don't think that's a partisan issue at all, even though some people are trying to paint it that way. And in Park City, you know, you've got a guy out there. And
we do. We have one fellow who's occupying City Park here in Park City, and evidently from what he has to say, he expects his number to grow. So we'll stay tuned as to whether or not there are 3, 5, or maybe a few hundred Parkites in City Park soon. I'm not sure that we'll reach those numbers, but in any case, it'll be an interesting story for us to continue to follow.
If it picks up, it'll be sure to be in the spring, unless there's a swell around the film festival.
And that's true. That's an interesting take as well. Well, I could say I wish we had more time. The good news is we have more time, just not now. I'd like to thank you for coming in, and we'll see you soon, and we'll have much more of in-depth analyses and a few laughs along the way.
I'm sure we will. I'm
Thanks,
excited
Bryan.
for it.
All right, we're going to take another break. We're going to have a little bit more music when we come back. Stay tuned and enjoy more of Mountain Views.